Hello and welcome to Reimagining Cyber. Producer Ben here. Now, for many people, this can be a somewhat dull time of year. The days are short, the weather is miserable, Christmas is firmly in the rear view mirror, but that is not the case for everybody. I have with me Rob Aragao, our resident cyber expert. And Rob, you always have something to, well, not so much get excited about, but certainly something to chew over at this time of year. Tell me more.
Hey there, Ben. And yep, you are right. It's January, which means for me, I love to talk about what the World Economic Forum has actually released. And this time it focuses on their Cybersecurity Outlook for 2025. Their report was released just last week. So again, we'll include that, of course, in the show notes for people who will go and read the greater detail. I've summarized it really as I've gone through into kind of a handful or so of key areas that they're calling out, and I'll walk right through those. But first, I think it's important for everyone as a fresh reminder, if you haven't listened to previous conversations on this topic, or just aren't really aware of kind of, what value the reports and research findings that come out of the World Economic Forum translate to. This is the way I look at it. From an audience perspective, a lot of the information either comes from or will be shared with executive leadership. And I mean from the top: CEO, CFO, Chief Risk Officer, CIO, of course, CISOs. So really, again, across the C-suite as a whole, typically, a lot of the information is either gathered from or something that they typically will take and look at least in summary, to have a better understanding on, in this case, the cybersecurity landscape as it relates to the global economy and, of course, the technology risks associated.
Okay then, Rob, which of the key areas are you going to start with?
Not really, again, too surprising here, but just the geopolitical tensions that we're seeing, in many different parts of the world. And that does obviously roll up to being a very core risk in general. And then when you put the cyber kind of lens on top of it, one of the aspects that's called out is related to cyber espionage, which we've talked about in the past. Matter of fact, Eric O'Neill came on and shared a lot around his work in his days at the FBI, and it emphasized, of course, the key theme around cyber espionage and what we need to be obviously aware of. And some great intel. Again, go back and listen to that episode. But it's driving cyber espionage as it relates to the loss of sensitive information or even intellectual property. And that absolutely, of course, is a top concern for CEOs and really, again, typically anyone in the C-suite, right? You're very concerned about what type of information you're collecting. You should have a purpose behind why you're collecting that information. And then, unfortunately, if that information is part of a data breach, right, there's major negative ramifications associated to that, penalties associated to, regulatory, again, issues, but also things around brand, market share, and everything else, right, that come along for the ride. So that's absolutely a key area of concern, again, with that kind of focus on cybersecurity specifically around these geopolitical tensions we're seeing.
Thanks, Rob. Now, the next one on the list is ransomware, which, of course, remains a top concern.
Unfortunately, we're just not seeing really a significant impact on being able to decrease the level of ransomware type of attacks that are occurring. There's been a lot of, obviously, investment made in this area to try to put additional measures in place to prevent ransomware from taking effect, but yet it still continues. So that's obviously an area of continued concern, but also an area of just we have to figure out different approaches and how we can do better in general.
So there's no surprise that ransomware's in there, and equally, I bet no one's shocked that AI has made an appearance as well.
And it looks at it from, kind of both sides of the coin. Again, another topic that we've discussed that really emphasizes the aspects as it relates to how AI can help cybersecurity practitioners. And in doing so, it's driving better efficiencies, especially as it relates to some of the use cases where we've seen some value around threat detection and reducing the time to detect security incidents. And so, those efficiencies are helpful. The efficiencies also around writing some of the rules or logic or even the models within a lot of the behavior analytics capabilities that we now have in front of us have gotten better and will continue to do so as the models evolve. On the other side of the coin, it's also presented itself as a major new risk factor for us, right? It's another attack vector. And you see the bad guys, of course, taking advantage of AI tools and driving AI powered attacks. And it's really accelerated their capability of attacking organizations, right? Putting more bots out there to be able to expand the scope, be very targeted in certain fashions, but be very broad in other. So it depends on what path they're looking to take, right? And identifying a target versus actually going after it and trying to penetrate that target. We see it as it relates to all sorts of phishing emails and the level of credibility that they seem to come across as based upon the vernacular they're using now, right? So they've gotten a heck of a lot better just with the use of AI and the way that these emails, phishing emails specifically, are being written. And so now confusing people to be able to potentially, again, get into the environment in that regard. So we'll continue to see how we progress forward around empowering our cybersecurity teams with AI tooling, better efficiency, ultimately driving towards ways to improve, again, our detection, but also looking for some opportunities where it can help on the protection side of it as well. So I think that'll be a major new kind of frontier that we focus in on and seeing how that can help, while also offsetting the kind of race that we're in, which typically the bad guys, unfortunately, because they are able to take and use these tools more effectively for what they're trying to accomplish, they don't have as many guardrails, obviously, in place that we typically would within our own organizations for obviously the right reasons. But again, another area that you're continuing to see and will see as a major concern from risk, and called out again within the outlook itself.
Something we've talked about on Reimagining Cyber for years is the cybersecurity skills shortage. That's made the report. What's the diagnosis?
I'd say there's been a little improvement. I think we're doing better as it relates to trying to get to the younger population, meaning, earlier in their education, making them aware about what cybersecurity could mean for them as a career path and getting them interested and excited. Right. And I think the more that we continue to do that, that helps us and drum up more opportunities for us to help reduce the skill shortage in cyber. On the other hand, I'll tell you that, there's been way too many times where I've seen, and colleagues might have seen, these job postings from organizations looking to hire cybersecurity folks into different type of roles, obviously within cyber as a whole, but just the level of requirement experience that they're expecting to get really limits the audience that you're able to pull from. And so I think we need to be a little bit more open in being able to loosen up the job descriptions, the requirements associated to, recruiting people into these roles, and look more so for key attributes around, problem solving. Again, we've talked about this in past episodes as well. And this is just an area we have to be more open-minded to getting the right people that have the desire, energy, and passion around solving problems into this space, and giving them and enabling them with the right tooling to be effective, right, in as quickly a time frame as possible once they're hired into these roles. But again, it's just we need to start seriously going back and reviewing a lot of these different job descriptions that are being posted within our organizations and see how we can actually, again, broaden the horizon of our pool of candidates, and really go get those people that are desiring to be coming into the space, and give them an opportunity to do so. So again, that's another thing we can look at. We know that we're helping a little bit at this point. I think we'll see more probably in this year as it relates to shortening the skill shortage just by using technology. And like we just came off the topic of AI, that's another area where we can show some improvement. We can show some gained efficiencies, and alleviate some of the, kind of roles that maybe in the past were more of a level one, for example, security analyst or a tier one security analyst in a security operations environment, to really up level their capabilities and shift themselves into a tier two, if not tier three role, where the AI capability really helps solve for that tier one traditional scope within that particular role.
Moving on then from the cybersecurity skills shortage, let's go to something very close to your heart, resilience.
So, of course, Ben, yes, for me, it's very, very important. We've been talking about that. This is really what launched the episodes that we came out of the gate with in Reimagining Cyber, with this emphasis about this pivot to cyber or digital resilience. And we're seeing great progress in this space. We're seeing it being very well adopted in organizations, understood, high value. And the reasons, again, I go back to is because the stakeholders at the executive level understand the terminology of resilience. Right? They look at it from an operational resiliency point of view. They've been doing that for many years in their particular, organizations, and now translating that into the cyber and digital aspect is important and understood, though. So, one of the things we have to think about in this space is just, I always turn back to the 4 key goals of cyber resiliency, and getting your arms wrapped around that as part of your program.
I know you're itching to remind us then, Rob. What are those 4 key goals?
That first core goal is about anticipating the different types of attacks that may be coming your way. That's all driven into preparation. That's all understanding what the critical assets are you have in your organization, putting the right protection and control mechanisms in place to help detract, attacks, and also, again, be able to continue to evolve those. We know that everything we do is to best protect the environment, but things will still get through. And that goes right into the second goal, which is about minimizing the impact when they do get through, right? And minimizing the impact to the point of, can we still stay operational, even if not to the full extent of the solution, to continue operations? That's really the emphasis about how you can minimize impact. And then goal number 3 is obviously how quickly can we recover from the incident or the attack? And then ultimately, again, that 4th goal is that continuous loop. Take those lessons learned, continue to evolve, continue to progress, and fill maybe gaps in part of your program. But again, it's the lessons learned aspect and ensuring that we're actually plugging any particular gaps we have within our overall program.
Okay then, Rob, the final area you're going to talk about is collaboration, the need for far better collaboration.
We've seen information sharing analysis centers, ISACs, doing a pretty good job in different verticals, financial services, healthcare, retail, aviation, and so on. That's great, right? But here's the deal. We need to see more of it. We need to see a better drive and emphasis as it relates to how we can better work with others within our industry, as well as within the public sector. And a prime example of success for that actually is an episode we did this past year with John Brickey of MasterCard, and some great experiences that they've put in place in running exercises with, again, other critical infrastructure organizations, and that partnership that they've been able to expand into the federal government. And one of the key aspects of that is, again, that true partnership with the same goals in place of understanding this is what we're driving towards, this is why we're doing these exercises, and the values and lessons that we'll learn from them to be able to put back into practice within our own organization. So those are some key aspects that were, brought forth out of the World Economic Forum Cybersecurity Outlook for 2025. Honestly, not a lot of new shining things that we're seeing within there, but more progression, more driving towards strengthening these areas, filling the gaps in these areas, and again, continuing to evolve is what it's all about. So I hope that summary helps. Again, we'll link the report within the show notes. I highly recommend you take a read through, and also go and take a look at other research that's released. But you can count on this type of report from World Economic Forum at the beginning of each year. And I think there's some high value in being able to take a look at that, because again, at the end of the day, this is also information that ties back into your executive leadership typically. And if you can better align and have your kind of program also cover these elements, you're going to have the answers to the questions when they come to you.
Yeah, Rob, you're absolutely right. So just to refresh, go over those key areas once more. They were geopolitical tensions and cyber espionage, the persistent threat of ransomware, AI in cybersecurity, the opportunities and risks, addressing the cybersecurity skills shortage, the importance of cyber resilience, and collaboration and information sharing. Fantastic, Rob. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and until next time, take care.